Hello and welcome back to my Fire Red Randomized Nuzlocke. Most folks call me Orange Joe, and we back in this. Yeah, team's still in shambles, still upset, but a little bit of time has passed, and by a little bit I mean about half an hour. I decided to, in between episodes, take a little bit of time, walk around, stretch my leg, because as it turns out, my knee is killing me, and I have no idea why. Now being fair, I didn't get up because my knee was killing me. I got up because of other stuff, but then the second I stood up, I was like, oh, that feels awful. Because it's like, the best way I can describe it is it feels like inside the joint, there's something like sharp and kind of stabbing outwards, and it just, it hurts. But that's part of just being the 30,000-year-old Spider-Man. And I don't mean Tobey Maguire or any other actors who portrayed Spider-Man who are escaping my mind at the moment. I don't mean like that. I mean like a man spider, like kind of like the man bat, but not. But no, I don't know what it is, but I walked around and stretched it a bit and tried cracking it, and it still hurts. Sitting out now. You know what happens to Corsolas around these parts. Corsola, I'm sorry, but you're in the wrong neighborhood. But no, excuse me? Oh. Alright, well. Alright, you did 10 damage. Good job, Corsola. See ya. But no, I don't know what the deal is. It doesn't hurt as much when I'm decumbent. But the big word just means sitting. Gorebus. Sure. But it's just, when I was walking around, it gave me a limp. And, I'll be the first to tell you, it's not the first time in my life I've been limping. That's for darn sure. I've been limping almost my entire life. But that's for a whole nother reason, man. You ever just get dealt a genetic disaster as your opening hand and get told to live a normal life? Couldn't be me every day. Oh wait, yeah, it could. Oh no. No, don't get me wrong. Not everything's bad. At least I'm tall. That's one. I'm kidding. I'm not actually that downtrodden about myself. I am tall. All 6 feet of me. No, not all 6 of my feet. I mean, that was weird. Not that he encountered, just the way he moved into us. I was intending to fight him. It just everything looked odd for a second. Excuse me. Get out of there, Bob. You shouldn't be there. We're gonna torch you there. But no, I just freaking I wear glasses. I was born with a genetic hip disease. I'm surprised if you didn't know that already. I've had to have multiple surgeries to correct it. My legs weren't the same length because of it, which is why I had one of the surgeries. I've just a horrible hairline. What else can I make fun of myself for? What else makes me ugly? What do you think? What do we got? We're up 15. That's another encounter, but we're gonna not get it because we're gonna go get some Ultra Balls. That's what I'm thinking. But no, I mean, again, I don't actually think that down about myself, but realistically, I have had more physical things to overcome than quite a few people. Being told when you're 5 years old that hey, you're about to experience some of the worst pain you've ever felt would have been nice to know beforehand. I guess this episode we'll talk a little bit about my first surgery. Why not? Why not have that conversation? I know what is this, episode 25 of Pokemon Nuzlocke, so I know that's kind of a weird place to come out of this, but this whole series is like a podcast anyway, which, again, I'm not opposed to doing. It actually might appear on one in the future. I don't know, but basically for now, don't assume me to do a podcast, but eventually I might. it's just not my style of content to consume. You know, I don't watch or listen to podcasts myself just because it's not for me. I prefer there to be something going on, but there's nothing wrong with liking podcasts, so it's an option down the road. But you know, and that one would be a lot more personal. It wouldn't be. I think if I were to do a podcast, there'd be a lot of like personal stories that I would have to tell, you know, on that. Whereas this I can kind of bologna sandwich around if you catch my bread. I almost said meat, and I was like, I don't want to say that. I really don't want that to be the thing I say to you people. You deserve better than that. So I'm sorry, but you know, if you catch my drift on that one. But if I, you know, we can kind of delve into the story of my first surgery, because that was a nightmare. Let me tell you. So I believe my parents knew since I was born, or like shortly thereafter. There's several tests that they kind of do in early infancy to kind of make sure that the baby is, you know, the wee babe is doing fine. And I wasn't, just straight up, I wasn't. Like they noticed immediately that my hip would dislocate doing normal stretches and things like that a baby can normally do. So like, yo, this biker's actually called a biker. It's kind of cool. It doesn't happen very often. But like doing the normal like hip flexor stretches where they kind of like spread your legs and dance them around and stuff to exercise the baby's legs, you know. They noticed that my hip would just dislocate. It would just pop right out of there, and right. And I'm sorry if that's like kind of disturbing imagery, but it's just that's what would happen. And they were like, "Hey, we think we know what's wrong, but you know, it'll take some work for us to figure it out, and just kind of let us work with it." And they discovered what I had. I have a rare genetic disease. It's called leg calf Perthes disease. It's the long and the short of it is, when I was developing as a yeetus fetus deletus, I was basically there wasn't enough blood flow to my hip. So the hip socket and the actual like bone that rounds or sits in there became necrotic. It started to like die, and it didn't grow properly. It never received the actual blood flow and oxygen it needed to exist. So it just kind of died and got yucky. So they're like, well, he's gonna need surgery, but we can't do it on a baby. He'll die. It's a baby. You know, there's not a whole lot of surgeries that a baby could survive. I don't think. I don't know. I've never been a baby surgeon before, so I probably shouldn't go making such bold claims that I pretend to know about when I don't, you know. But yeah, so they waited until I was 5 years old, and then, you know, I kind of found out about it, and like it's very terrifying to a kid so young to be told like, hey, I should mention, now, you may think of this as cruel, you may think of this as whatever, but I actually greatly appreciate it, and it probably had a lot of, this is scary, but we'll try it. It probably had a lot of influence on how I kind of live my life as I do, especially conversationally and, you know, and so on, because I was told that there's a chance, not a certainty, but there's a chance that I going in for surgery wouldn't wake up. And now as a 5-year-old, that's very scary. Hang on. Sorry. Voltor possibly knowing self-destruct. That is scary. What? Dying? Who cares? Volt Orb Gen 3. What level do you learn explosion? Or self-destruct or whatever. No, I don't want freaking Pokemon database. I want Bulbagarden. Bulbapedia. Give it to me. Yeah. What do we got? 27. You know it. For certain you know it. Okay, Bob. Good luck, buddy. He's an electric type, and I know that's scary, and I know you're not full health either, but we are going to heal you for sure. Don't worry. And then you're just, we gotta hope he doesn't use an electric type, or you just hope he doesn't lock onto electric type moves. goodness gracious scary. But Bob, you're our only hope at eating a self-destruct here, so we have to trust you to be able to take those. I mean, we'll try another attack here. Okay, we're fine. Thank you, Bob. All praise be unto he, our hero. Man, I should freaking name you like Deku or something. How much of a hero you become. But anyway, so like I was told, like, you know, there was a chance that you might not wake up, and that is truly a scary prospect for anyone. You know, like, hey, when you go to sleep, for this thing that you have to have done to you, you know, not every time does everyone wake up, and we can't always explain why, and we don't always know. The odds are very low, but it could happen. And, you know, that honestly, again, horrified me. It very much so did, but it also, you know, in the end, really meant the world to me. It was impossibly important for me to know that, because it kind of bred this feeling in me that honesty was super important at all junctures, and that, you know, I felt that in the face of real danger, my parents would always be honest with me, you know, and ideally doctors too, but that's a whole other argument. And that, you know, when I woke up, there would be a lot of pain, and that it would be a very hard path that I was on, and there was no way to really eschew that, to get rid of it. It was just that's the way it was. It just had to be that way. And, you know, it was hard. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it was easy, because it really wasn't. There was a lot of things about it that were very challenging, a lot of pain and struggling, and, you know, that came with it. But I obviously woke up. But, you know, when you go into it and you know, you're told, like, hey, it's important to have this conversation because this is scary, and, you know, it's important that everyone knows that this is scary. And, you know, I was told, and it was tough, but, you know, I made it through, and I believe me, I cried all the way to the surgery room, and they put the anesthetic mask on me to kind of put me to sleep, and, you know, off I went. Right, you know, you have Levitate. And when I woke up, this was so long ago for me, because again, I was 5 years old. I don't really remember much, but I remember how I felt most days when I woke up during this period of my life, because I spent... I always goof up how long it was. I believe it was 3 weeks in the hospital. I don't know for sure, though. I think it was 3 weeks in the hospital, and then 3 months in the cast after that. Why didn't they use a ground type move? But every time I woke up, I just had this grand euphoria and very hard time thinking, and, you know, because I was on morphine. I had basically a spinal tap. How do you do, fellow? Turn it up to 11 rockers. But I had like a direct line of morphine into me, you know, and I was supposed to not feel pain, or really that. There it was again. Did you guys see that? The weird mini rubber banding? But I wasn't supposed to feel like anything from the waist down, basically. And it's really hard for me to kind of phrase it. Payday, thank you for the free money, dude. It's really hard for me to phrase this in a way that's going to make sense to you if you've never felt what I've felt. But, like, morphine was simultaneously one of the best, if not the best, singular feelings I've ever had, mixed with some of the worst, absolutely gut-wrenching, just vile feelings of nausea. And, like, it's kind of like, okay, imagine this, right? And this is gonna sound very bizarre, I know. But imagine you're like going into a corn maze, right? Like corn mazes are a really fun part of the fall. They're a really fun thing that you can kind of do, and it can be an enjoyable experience. But now imagine you've been lost in this maze all day. You got there before noon, and the sun's starting to set now, and so you're starting to really realize that you are lost, and you're really like, you get that panic that sets in where you're like, I have to get out of here. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And that was a pervasive feeling that I started to get with being on morphine. You know, having an opiate make it so that I didn't feel pain. You know, by the way, we can't unlearn cut. I started talking about the game right now. I know the move deleter is in one of these two houses. We can't unlearn cut yet because there's grass we need to encounter on back there. But it would delete this pain, but it also gave me this great sense of nausea and anxiety and all these awful feelings when I would wake up. So like what would end up happening is I had it like on a button where I could click it as soon as I even had a whisper of pain. I'd be you'd click the thing and it'd be like, great, congratulations, you don't feel pain anymore. And yeah, we'll take the good rod, but we're never going to use it, sorry to tell you. Oh yeah, we can actually encounter in here too, but we're in this town because there's water right there. Fuchsia, that's where we're at. But the Zibals come first. But it was just this grand amount of awful feelings mixed with like it was the only way to not feel much worse, So it was just a sublime kind of crossroads of like needing to not feel like some of the worst pain I've ever felt, which we will get to when I felt it, and not wanting to be awake because I felt so awful while I was awake. Even if it wasn't pain, it was emotional, it was physical, like feeling like I wanted to vomit constantly, and just all this bad stuff, and then where's our what are you holding? Are you holding Lucky Egg? Yeah, you can keep it for now. I don't care. But just all this bad stuff, right? And I am gonna check if we can get the experience share. Not that we need it right now. 50 speed, we can't. For sure, we can't. Well, like, look, I'll prove it to you, but 15. 15. Even if you count national decks, 32. So no way. But it was just this awful thing. So I had this button, right, that it was like on command I could drift off. The pain would, now again, it was metered. It's not like they just let me have infinite rain on morphine. I would have died. I was 5 years old. I wouldn't have known better. Even as an adult, I wouldn't know what ratios to use unless they told me, But it just, on this timer, which basically happened to coincide with whenever I would wake up, I could just click it and I would get this shot of morphine, and it would be this just like momentary sublime ecstasy, like an unbelievable feeling of just impossible removal of all of these pains, physical and emotional. And it's so hard to place because like it got to the point where I wasn't eating at all. When I would wake up, it would be because the pain started creeping in a little bit. The morphine wore off. These good feelings wore away. And if you know anything about opiates, when you take opiates, they one of their most common side effects that a lot of people have is extreme nausea. And I was definitely. I hate why not. Put a torchy. And so when I would wake up, it'd be all these side effects coming in. The pain that I was truly experiencing mixed with this opiate nausea, mixed with just so many other things that please don't hit yourself in confusion and then knock me out with Destiny Bond. I realize now that that is an option. Okay. I have to quickly read what Destiny Bond does. I'm sorry to pull away from this conversation, but let's see. Destiny Bond effect, please. Destiny Bond is used until the user moves again. If the user faints, okay, it's not activated for indirect damage, weather damage, leech seed, future sight. Oh, interesting. It's no effect. Distant one can also be used as part of the. Okay, so I think. Because you use Safeguard, we should be safe. Shouldn't have to fear Destiny Bomb anymore. Yep, okay, we're good. Because they had to move again. But yeah, it just, you know, I'd wake up with this just like feeling of I felt so sick. And the pain was so bad that it was becoming sickening as well. It was this like stacking effect, and it just... whenever I would wake up, I would just beg to be put back to sleep. You know, I would just beg to not feel pain, to just not be awake anymore. It was so hard to be awake during this time because of how much pain I was starting to feel, and it got to the point where they would have to take away my ability to medicate, so that I could be awake long enough through the pain to eat, because I wasn't eating. They had to actually like start an IV bag to make sure that I was, you know, hydrated, because I was not hydrating at all. And you know, I just remember there's a day where my dad, he kind of got up and he just said, "Hey, we're gonna go for a little ride. I want you to get out of this room. I want you to see things again. I don't want you to have the same scenery around you." And I just kind of looked at him and was like, "Why?" You know, and here I as long as I can, you know, press the button, I don't have to feel pain anymore. And you know, I don't have to. You know, I'm sorry. It's hard to cast my mind back to this, but I was just, you know, I just caught myself thinking, like, I like asked him, like, why would you ask me to leave here when here's the only spot where it doesn't have to hurt if things work out. And you know, it was really hard to kind of see. Wait, what? Oh, air cutter works on both of me. To see how me just saying that affected him. You know, he clearly did not. You know, and obviously, I want to mention, like, I didn't say it exactly as such, but it just, like, you know, I didn't have the. You know, I wasn't verbally skilled as a 5-year-old, but like that was the sentiment that got across, and it clearly upset him because it was so clear that I was in such a state that I couldn't handle, you know, feeling what I was feeling anymore. But he still took me in this wheelchair, and you know, he lifted me out of this bed, kind of lifting by the cast, and we moved me into the hall, and kind of he wheeled me around a little bit. Now obviously I had this like IV hanger and all this other stuff with me because I had to, you know, these things had to come with. It was like my pain relief built in and all these other things that were important. And a big part of why they had to move me around too was to clean the bedding and stuff like that, because at this time, you know, again, sorry if this is coming off as too much information, but I had a catheter in, and you know, bathroom things were bedpan service, and it was challenging. So they had to they had to clean the bed and all this other stuff. So he had to wheel me around, and like I remember certain things about this experience, about being wheeled around. But what's funny about it is that I don't like going into the surgery and being wheeled around in this hospital. I don't remember them as you might think. They formed as, sorry, I was just scared of a crit there. They formed as nondescript memories, and the way I remember them is not the way they happened. And I know that because the way I remember them is in third person, as a bystander, seeing these things happen to someone. And I don't know if that's like a mechanism for my brain to protect itself because these were painful and traumatic moments for me, or if it's just my brain being weird and not remembering these things because I was 5 and my brain got fried. I don't know what happened, but I remember them in third person, like with the anesthesia mask coming on. I remember like basically like, as though I had come out of my own head and was just like looking down and drifting away as I fell asleep. That's what I remember, and I know that didn't happen. Of course that didn't happen. I freaking fell asleep. I had anesthesia. But in my mind, that's just what I remember. And then when I was getting wheeled around this time, I remember like just being in a wheelchair and everything being green. Like the floors and the walls, and I think it's because my cast was green. I really think that's why. I think it's because my brain just latched on to the most prevalent thing on me, because this cast was from my breast line, like my nipple line, all the way down on my right leg to my ankle, and then on my left leg it went down to just above the knee. So it was a very large cast, and it encompassed my whole body. And then when I say it was in a wheelchair, I mean it was like a full body wheelchair. It wasn't like a chair that I just sat in, because my legs were locked in their position, at a certain width, at a certain direction. So it was this very prevalent color on me, and then they had to why? So it just, I remember the green so well, and I remember just the instant I could, just clicking the button and fading away, and I remember like the clear pain that I saw on my dad's face, because I was like desperate to fade back off, and like every chance I could get I was doing that, with not eating and with taking these moments of being conscious as just like fleeting, agonizing things rather than part of life. And as a 5-year-old, I didn't have any other way to think of it. I just was like, this hurts, get me out of here. But as an adult, I can really relate to why my dad was like, this is awful. Like, he had to see his only son, and now, being fair, I have a brother and sister, but like his only flesh and blood son go through what was something that he couldn't place on himself, something that he couldn't help me through. He could just kind of watch. And yeah, it was really hard. And then what ended up happening down the line is at one point or another, around the 3rd week of my of being in the hospital, I believe I was only supposed to be there for about a month, but I only stayed there for 3 weeks. And it's not because I did extra good and said my prayers and ate my vitamins. It's because of mistakes. So we allowed students, med students, to do my post-operation procedures, and because it was a teaching hospital, and I want to make clear, I don't blame them for this, though can be pretty directly linked to their fault. I don't want this to come off as like you should never allow med students to work. Obviously, that's not the case. We need medical students, but it happened to work very poorly for me in this instance. At some point in the 3rd week, my morphine line became tangled and formed a kink. And the unfortunate thing that happened was I began to feel pain. And by the 3rd week, a lot of the pain had subsided. It was, I was only 1 week removed from the point in which I was going to be off the morphine, period, and on a more regimented, kind of pill-based painkiller. And what ended up happening was this, even though it was a week removed, the pain became immense, like impossibly challenging pain, and it was very hard because at first the doctors refused to believe me, the nurses or whatever have you that they were, because they thought it an impossibility. They said with what I had in, it should be impossible for me to feel pain anymore. And day over day, it just got worse and worse and worse, and more creeping and agonizing. And it was this slow, nauseating, horrible pain that it went from my painkillers being something that would knock me out and make it so that I was asleep all the time to I was so in so much pain that I was never sleeping anymore. I couldn't sleep. It was keeping me up. It was causing me to sweat. It was making me sick. This just drawn out, torturous, impossible amount of pain for a young person to have to deal with. And it was something that I can't ever place. I hope I never have to feel something like that again. And it's really informed how I kind of look at physical pain for the rest of my life. I not that I'm saying I'm like a tough guy or whatever, but I believe I've experienced enough pain in my life to know my limits and know what is and isn't really, really challenging pain for me. And this was something else. And like when I broke my arm, I broke my arm once, by the way, and it broke at the same time in 3 places, and it was now 3 very localized places. Mind you, it was the forearm, 2 cracks all the way through on one bone, and 1 through on another. And of course, initially, very much pain, just an unbelievable amount of pain. Again, I was a kid when this happened. I was younger than 10, I think. Like somewhere between like 8 and 10. I don't remember when it happened. Probably like 9. Let's just say 9. And the thing is that when my arm broke, there was a lot of crying and a lot of freaking out, of course. I was a kid, broke my arm, freaked out. And ever since, broken bones, by the way, are like one of the only things that, like, not only things, but it's whenever I think I've broken something on myself, and I don't mean like, oh, I hurt myself, it might be broken. I mean like when I genuinely think I've broken something, like when I broke one of my knuckles. It's the closest I've ever come or ever will come to fainting because of this event. But when I broke my arm, it was a lot of like freaking out. But then as soon as we got in the car, we put some frozen peas on it, and we started driving. And my mom, it was very funny. My dad was like the antithesis of calm, and my mom was like perfectly calm. She was like, which is funny because normally my mom is like a pervasive warrior, and my dad was like the stalwart, like, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. You know, like we could be in the middle of a tornado kind of advisory in effect or whatever. You could see, like, there's actually video he captured on his phone one day of a tornado blowing through our backyard. Thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I'm going to quickly finish the story up, but we are going to call it here, by the way. But he, you know, as I got in the car, my mom started calming me, and I just kind of calmed down, stopped letting the shock be there, and the pain just started kind of creeping in, and I started feeling how much it hurt, and it really wasn't as bad as what I had felt before. It wasn't as bad as my hip, not even close. And you know, I'll cut this a little bit short. I think we'll by the way, next episode, fighting Timmy. We're just doing it. We're going for it. So I'm actually gonna rearrange the team right now. I'm gonna talk about this more in the next episode. I think I am gonna record one more episode tonight, because it is getting a little late. It's about bedtime for me, but I'll record one more so I can just kind of finish up talking about this stuff, because it's rare that I really open up about this sort of thing. Like, you know, I do, and I have, but I don't often get the chance. I don't often get in this mood. So I think the next episode we'll kind of finish up the story, and don't worry, it isn't all bad. But it's just kind of getting to know me a little bit better. So thank you for sticking with me up to this point, if you have. Be sure to leave the like button or leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Sub if you want to, you know, see what else I got going on. Follow me on Twitter at most folks. If you want to have like a direct line of communication with me, you're welcome to do so. Feel free to at me. We can talk. You know, comment down below if you have suggestions for Pokemon names. We have like, now you won't be able to interact with these ones, but we have, we're running low on catches actually, but we have like 4 encounters coming up in a minute. So just know that we're coming in fast with those ones, and then soon they're gonna start drying up. So just, you know, comment as soon as you can. And you know, as always, in the description box below, if you have questions or anything like that, check it out, because I always tell you this whole ending spiel. And also I always tell you to have a lovely day. It's because I hope you do. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.